The year was 1978. The golden California sun was setting over Newport Beach, casting long, dramatic shadows across the study of a man who had become the very symbol of American strength. But inside those walls, the air was heavy with a different kind of reality. John Wayne, the man who had survived 1,000 gunfights on the silver screen, was facing an enemy he couldn't outdraw. Cancer was a silent, relentless stalker, and for the first time in his legendary life, the Duke was feeling the weight of his own mortality. He sat in his heavy leather chair, the same one where he had memorized scripts for The Searchers and True Grit, but now, the scripts were replaced by medical reports and bottles of pills. The silence of the house was deafening, a stark contrast to the thunderous applause he had received for decades. He looked at his hands, the same hands that had held revolvers and guided horses, and saw them trembling. It wasn't just age, it was the realization that even the biggest legends are made of flesh and bone. Every breath felt like a heavy lift, a reminder that the rugged hero the world loved was, in his private moments, a man struggling to find his footing in a world that was moving on without him. While the world outside clamored for news, speculating on his health and mourning the end of an era, Wayne found himself withdrawing into a quiet, reflective space. He wasn't interested in the Hollywood galas or the fawning praise of critics anymore. He began to think about his early days, back when he was just Marion Morrison, a young man with a scholarship to USC and a dream that didn't involve a cowboy hat. He remembered the dusty backlots of the 1930s, the endless B-movies, and the moment John Ford turned him into a star in Stagecoach. He realized that for 50 years, he had been playing a version of himself that the world demanded, a man of steel, a man without fear. But now, in the twilight of his life, he was searching for something real, something that reminded him of why he had chosen this path in the first place. He thought about the men he had known on the frontier, the real cowboys who worked for pennies and died in the dirt, and he wondered if he had truly honored their spirit. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to leave behind something more than just celluloid images. That was when the letter arrived. It wasn't written on expensive stationery, and it didn't come from a high-powered agent. It was written in the shaky, earnest hand of a 10-year-old boy named Jimmy, mailed from a small town in the Midwest that didn't even appear on most maps. Jimmy was a child who knew more about courage than most grown men Wayne had encountered in Hollywood. From his bed in a sterile hospital ward, surrounded by the constant hum of machines and the smell of antiseptic, he had watched every John Wayne movie ever made. To Jimmy, the Duke wasn't just an actor playing a part. He was a beacon of hope in a world that felt increasingly dark and confusing. Jimmy was also fighting cancer, a battle that left him exhausted and frightened in the middle of the night when the nurses were busy and the lights were low. He had spent months in and out of surgeries, losing his hair and his strength, but never his spirit. In his letter, he didn't ask for a photo or a piece of movie memorabilia to sell on the street. He asked a question that cut straight through Wayne's professional armor and touched the vulnerable man underneath. "Duke, I'm scared. The doctors say I have to be brave because I'm a man now, but I don't know how to do that. I feel small. How do you stay brave when you know the bad guys might win this time? Is it okay to cry when you're a cowboy?" When Wayne read those words, he didn't see a fan. He saw a mirror. He saw the same fear he tried to hide behind his rugged exterior every time he stepped into a hospital corridor for his own treatments. He felt a sharp pang of guilt for the image of invincibility he had projected for so long. Despite the agonizing pain that racked his own body, despite the doctors telling him that he needed absolute rest and zero stress, Wayne sat down at his heavy oak desk. He told his staff that he wasn't to be disturbed for any reason, not for a call from the White House, not for a studio executive offering him a new role. He spent hours drafting a response, wanting every word to be a lifeline for that boy. He began to write about his own childhood, about the times he felt small and insignificant when his family moved to the desert, and how he had to invent the Duke just to survive the pressures of a life he never quite felt he deserved. He wanted Jimmy to know that the man on the screen was a mask, but the courage required to wear that mask during hard times was very real, and it was something they both shared in their separate battles. Wayne wrote about the difference between being a hero and simply being a man who does his duty. He told Jimmy that fear is a natural part of life. It's the body's way of saying that something important is happening, that you are alive, and that you care. He told him that the only true coward is the one who lets fear dictate his actions and stop him from trying to help others. Courage, Wayne famously wrote in that letter, is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. He shared detailed stories from his time on sets like The Alamo and The Searchers, describing the heat, the dust, and the crushing feeling of responsibility he felt for the hundreds of people working under him. He wasn't bragging about his power. He was showing Jimmy that even the biggest legends have moments where they want to run away and hide in the dark. He told Jimmy that every breath he took in that hospital bed, every time he agreed to a painful treatment so his mother wouldn't see him cry, was an act of defiance and heroism that would make any frontiersman or soldier proud to stand beside him. The correspondence didn't stop with one letter. For months, a secret bridge was built between the rocky shores of Newport Beach and that quiet hospital room in the heart of America. They talked about things that Wayne rarely discussed with anyone else, not even his closest friends like Ward Bond or John Ford. They talked about the beauty of a wild horse running free across the plains, the vastness of the American West that Wayne loved so dearly, and the absolute importance of family, loyalty, and keeping your word. Wayne began to send Jimmy small tokens of their friendship. A bandana he had actually worn in a classic film, a small brass compass that he had kept in his pocket for years to help him find his way through the dark woods. He even sent a small piece of a set from his last movie, a physical reminder that stories end, but the materials they are built from remain. These weren't PR stunts orchestrated by a studio looking for good press. No one in the media knew about this. It was a private pact between two warriors who were both staring down the final sunset, finding strength in each other's presence across the miles of a country they both loved. As Wayne's health declined further in early 1979, the letters became shorter because he could no longer hold a pen for long periods without his hand cramping. The physical toll was immense, but the bond grew even stronger. He began to see Jimmy as a symbol of everything he had fought for in his films. The innocent who deserved protection, the brave soul who refused to quit even when the odds were impossible. In his final letters, Wayne's tone shifted from advice-giving to a sort of peaceful, spiritual acceptance. He encouraged Jimmy to look for the beauty in the smallest things, the way the morning light hit the hospital floor, the sound of a friendly nurse's voice, the simple taste of a favorite meal brought from home. He was teaching the boy how to face the end with dignity, even as he was desperately trying to learn that very lesson himself in the quiet of his own bedroom. It was perhaps the greatest performance of his life, and the only audience was a 10-year-old boy who saw him not as a movie star, but as a big brother or a father figure who understood the darkness they were both walking through. By the time the spring of 1979 arrived, both fighters were reaching the end of their physical strength. The letters stopped coming because the hands that wrote them were too tired to continue the journey. John Wayne passed away in June, leaving behind a legacy that defined a nation's vision of itself for half a century. But thousands of miles away, in a quiet room filled with the scent of old paper and hope, a young boy held a stack of letters tight to his chest. Jimmy outlived his hero by only a few months, but those who were with him during those final days said he never complained of fear again. He died with a smile on his face, holding the brass compass Wayne had sent him. He died knowing that he wasn't alone in the canyon, that the Duke was waiting for him on the other side of the trail, ready to saddle up for one last ride together through a land where there was no more pain, no more hospitals, and no more bad guys. Jimmy's parents later said that those letters were the only thing that kept their son's spirit alive when the medicine failed. They were a gift of life from a man who was losing his own. The story of John Wayne and Jimmy reminds us that the true measure of a man isn't found in the awards he wins, the movies he makes, or the millions of dollars he earns for a studio. It's found in the quiet moments of kindness that no one ever sees. It's found in the courage to reach out to someone else when you are hurting the most and offer them a hand. Today, we remember not just the actor, not just the legend of the West, but the man who took the time to be a hero for one small, brave heart. This is the secret legacy of John Wayne, a story that proves even when the cameras stop rolling and the lights go out, the legend lives on through the lives we touch and the hope we give to those who have none left. John Wayne once said he wanted to be remembered as Theo, fuerte y formal, ugly, strong, and dignified. But Jimmy remembered him simply as the man who stayed by his side when the world got dark and the wind started to howl. He was the man who taught a child that being a man means being kind when it's hardest to do so. As we look back at the cinematic history of the Duke, let us not forget the ink and paper that carried more weight than any gold Oscar statue could ever dream of. Let us remember that even the toughest outlaws and the bravest lawmen are, at their core, human beings searching for a reason to keep going. John Wayne gave us a blueprint for American masculinity, but in his letters to Jimmy, he gave us a blueprint for the human soul. He showed us that greatness isn't about how many enemies you defeat or how many territories you conquer, but about how much hope you can inspire in a single, flickering heart. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of a legend. This story belongs to all of us who have ever felt scared in the dark. Until next time, keep your chin up, remember the Duke's words, and keep saddling up, no matter how scared you might be. Because in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, but the life in your years and the courage you show to the people who are looking to you for a sign that everything is going to be all right. Ride on, Duke, and ride on, Jimmy. The trail never truly ends for those who ride together.